Okay, let's just put it out there. Skyfall isn't just a great Bond movie. A lot of people think it's the most beautiful one ever made. So, how does a franchise that's been around for 50 years suddenly look like a visual masterpiece? You'd think it's a huge team effort, right? Well, the truth is, it really boils down to the singular vision of one artist. And hey, that's not just some niche opinion. This is a comment from a fan, but it captures exactly what critics and audiences all over the world were feeling. The look of this film is absolutely legendary, and whenever you hear people talk about it, all that praise points back to one person, the cinematographer.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle here. We're going to dive into the philosophy, the techniques, and just the sheer artistry that turns Skyfall into something you really can't forget.
To understand the how, you gotta first meet the who. And the master behind the camera is the one and only Sir Roger Deakins. Just look at that number, 16. That's how many times he's been nominated for an Oscar for his cinematography. I mean, that alone tells you everything you need to know about his status. This isn't just some guy who's good with a camera. He is truly one of the all-time greats. And that phrase, a poetic voice, is just perfect for him. See, for Deakins, the camera isn't just a machine that records what's happening. It's a tool for creating emotion. It tells a story with light and shadow in a language that doesn't even need words. So what is it that makes his work so special? To really get what he did with Skyfall, you have to understand the core ideas that guide every single choice he makes behind that camera. This right here is absolutely crucial. He calls it the invisible shot. Deakins believes his work is at its best when you don't even notice it, when it's so perfectly in sync with the story and the characters that it just feels real. It's never about showing off. It's always about serving the story. And this quote just shows you how he puts that story-first idea into practice. Can you believe it? He wasn't even a huge Bond fan. So instead of making another big, loud blockbuster, he saw Skyfall as something darker, something more personal, a film noir. And that one decision to focus on Bond as a man facing his own death, well, that changed everything. It gave him the creative freedom to play with all that beautiful shadow and silhouette. You can really see the difference when you put his style side by side with your typical action movie. You know, where they use a frantic, shaky camera to create a sense of chaos. Deakins does the opposite. He uses controlled, patient camera moves to build real tension. He throws out the over-the-top visuals for something that feels grounded and real. And maybe most important of all, instead of just blasting every scene with light, he uses darkness in a way that actually has meaning. All right, enough with the theory. Let's see how it all works in practice. We're going to start with our first deep dive, that absolutely stunning skyscraper fight in Shanghai. So here's the setup. Bond is hunting this assassin, Patrice. They're in one of those ultra-modern skyscrapers that's basically all glass, and the only real light in the scene is coming from these huge hypnotic LED screens playing ads outside the windows. Now, you'd probably think the most iconic part of this scene, that giant jellyfish floating on the screen, was planned for months. But get this. According to Deakins, an art director just found it online for a test. They threw it up there, loved how it looked, and just kept it. He immediately saw how the calm, quiet drift of the jellyfish would create this beautiful, eerie contrast to the brutal violence of the fight. Seriously, the scene is like a masterclass. By using those silhouettes, the fighters aren't just two guys punching each other. They become these mythic, elegant shapes in a deadly dance. That cold digital blue of the background makes it feel like we're watching something in a virtual world, totally separate from the life or death struggle happening inside. And the camera itself, it's just one slow, steady push-in. It builds so much more suspense than a dozen shaky jump cuts ever could. Okay, so from the cold blues of Shanghai, let's go to the warm, golden glow of Macau. This next scene is all about spectacle, atmosphere, and a whole lot of simmering tension. So, Bond arrives at this casino by boat. But, of course, this is no ordinary entrance. He's gliding through a sea of hundreds of glowing lanterns, heading straight for an entrance framed by two massive illuminated dragon heads. It is just pure eye candy. But all that beauty has a double meaning. Just like Deakins said, the goal was to make it feel inviting and exotic, but also really threatening. Every single beautiful detail is designed to make you feel a little uneasy, to build that sense of dread for the confrontation that you know is waiting inside.
And here's the craziest part. You might think this is all CGI, but no. They built this entire magnificent set for real at Pinewood Studios. We're talking 300 actual floating lanterns and those dragon heads custom built by experts from China. They even set off real fireworks in the background. And it's all captured in this one long, unbroken Steadicam shot that just pulls you right into the action. It's practical filmmaking on an absolutely massive scale.
And that brings us to the finale, the film's explosive, fiery, and deeply personal climax back at Bond's childhood home, Skyfall Lodge.
Now, this is maybe one of the boldest creative choices in the whole movie. Deakins decided that for the climax of the film, there would be only one light source, the raging fire from the burning house itself. No extra movie lights to make things easier. He wanted total darkness, lit only by the chaos of the flames. And pulling this off was just an incredible technical feat. First, they went to Scotland and filmed the actual house burning to the ground. Then, they brought the actors back to a soundstage and used this massive computer-controlled lighting rig to perfectly mimic the flickering light of the real fire. And finally, visual effects artists blended it all together into one terrifying, seamless shot. So, we've seen his artistry in action. Let's zoom out for a second. What is Roger Deakins' real legacy, and why does his way of making movies matter so much?
The techniques we just broke down in Skyfall, well, they're his signature moves. You can see them all over his other films. Think about the harsh, natural sunlight in No Country for Old Men, or the immersive one-shot trick in 1917, which was all about pulling you into the story, not just a gimmick. Or the breathtaking use of color in Blade Runner 2049. It's all part of the same artistic DNA.
And at the end of the day, that's the key to his genius. It's not just about making pretty pictures. It's about using every tool he has, light, color, camera movement, to dig down and find the emotional truth of a story. For Deakins, the technology and the beauty always serve the narrative. Which kind of leaves us with one last question. Deakins' whole philosophy is that the best cinematography should be invisible. But now that we've pulled back the curtain and you've seen the incredible thought and artistry that goes into every single frame, can you ever really watch one of his films the same way again? Can you unsee the genius?